Welcome to the Poetry Box Live. I'm Shawn Aveningo Sanders, and I'm thrilled that you could join us for a little poetry today. You know, we took a little break for the summer, but we're so excited to be back with you sharing poetry from some of our recently published authors. For those of you who may be tuning into our show for the very first time, my husband Robert and I run an independent press here in Portland, Oregon, known as the Poetry Box. And over the past 8 years, we've been lucky enough to collaborate with over 120 talented poets across the country to publish their books and chapbooks. 3 years ago, in September of 2020, you remember that year, don't you? We started hosting the Poetry Box Live to help our poets reach a broader audience. What started out as a solution during the pandemic turned into our regular series, and it's been an absolute joy to bring people together from across the globe to share in the love of poetry. So thank you to all of our regular viewers and supporters of the show. We've got another great show for you today, featuring 3 amazing poets, all joining us today from here in Oregon. We have Susan Woods Morse, author of Quilting the Loose Edges, Grace Richards, author of Breakup Hair and Other Poems, and Claudia Savage, author of Metal Used for Beauty Alone. So let's get started with our first featured poet. Susan Woods Morse is the author of Quilting the Loose Edges, a tapestry of poems about the places she has known and the people she has loved. Born in California, Susan transplanted to the backwoods of Maine for 30 years before finally moving to the Willamette Valley in Oregon to be closer to her family. Here, Susan served on the board of the Oregon Poetry Association and authored her first chapbook, In the Hush. Her work has appeared in various journals such as Mom Egg Review, Sixfold, Willowa, Voice Catcher, Verse Weavers, and The Poeming Pigeon. Susan is a member of the Mid-Valley Poetry Society and often reads her work during Salem Poetry Project and Head for the Hills events. She enjoys gardening, camping, and just being out there in nature. Please welcome Susan Woods Morse.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming today. It's really important for poets, I think, to have an audience, and this looks wonderful. I also want to thank Shawn and Robert and the Poetry Box for the beautiful job they did on this book. I love the cover of the book, Quilting the Loose Edges. It features several of my sister's quilts on there, and I wrote this book. It's mainly a collection of place poems, but explores relationships as well. And I kind of think of your whole life pattern as kind of quilting. You go through patterns and stages, and so it made me think of my sister's quilts. She's a beautiful seamstress and quilter. And yes, I have lived in various places. The book's set up in 3 sections for 30 years in California, 30 years in Maine, and now about 7 in the Willamette Valley. I don't know if I'll make it another for the 30 years here, but anyway, I'm glad what I've had so far. So I've really enjoyed living in Oregon. Some of the poems in the California section are kind of handed down like quilts because some of them come from the 1980s. So anyway, I'll get started and read a few poems from each section. And thank you again all for being an audience today. This first section is called Discovering the Heritage piece, and it's one of my sister's first quilts. And it begins with a poem called Dust Bowl Memento. My grandparents actually came out of Oklahoma as real Oklahoma Dust Bowl escapees and went to Borger, Texas, then up the California coast, and eventually ended up in Longview, Washington. So I've kind of come full circle in a way. So this one is for my mother, and they were so great. The Poetry Box, you probably can't see them, but putting in vintage pictures of my mother on there too from their childhood. So it was really nice. Dust Bowl Memento for Millie. 2 sisters are caught in the focus of a camera lens. It is 1930. My mother and my aunt stand on stalwart legs with bobbed hair, bleached bone white, and parasols in hand. 2 small faces attempting a shy grin. Their father, lanky, stooped, unsmiling, wears a railroad bill cap. Their mother, face hidden under a wide-brimmed hat, is washed out, posed in the act of chafing worry from her hands. The family group now has faded, the black and white sharpness of individual lives long since diminished. My mother told us tales of life in Oklahoma, damped down curtains hung in every window, the canvas tint in Borger, Texas, later a 3-room shack, and aunts and uncles who roomed in when there was no work. The story of a hapless, scrawny rooster they murdered one Sunday for dinner. A backwash of grit was painted into the stilled smile of their lives as monotonous oil rigs pumped black blood from parched earth. The stealing living boxed them in. That harshness finally moved them north, herded not so much by weariness of the wind, but by empty bellies. Decades later, viewing her photo as she stands before that wooden shack with her almost intangible longing, I think I know why she was unable to escape the pattern that framed her life. She already knows only vacant eyes will meet her outside its border. Okay, so that was for Millie, thank you. The next poem I'm going to read, these are from the California section, and it's called Gathering the Patterns. So that's where I was born, in California, and lived in Stockton, unfortunately, the Central Valley for 30 years. This one's called California Heat. The heat hisses, arches its back under bare feet. Slap, slap, don't break your mother's back on the parched concrete walks of summer. Thirsty swamp coolers drool in each window, drip by drip, while the afternoon curls up, tail tucked under, hurrying through a long night. A glittering eye rises in the torpid dawn. The monster once again ready to pounce, to playfully bat the greenness of spring into brittle, hushed white silence. Like Diana, our tabby hunter, the whispering heat has no heart, but creeps in stealthily, makes a quick dart into July, then daintily licks every last drop of early morning dew. By August, each day has a final, fiery stillness with even its breath aglow. Okay, and the last poem I'm going to read in this section is called Alice Returning, and it's written for my sister and myself too, from our youth. Alice Returning. Why did you come back to our valley of illusions? Did you miss those skies darkened by black peat? Did you lose your way among rows of dust-cloaked vineyards, paths that led to stucco houses with identical doors? Or did you miss the glass coffin of summer heat, the family trip that never was? When we were young, I railed against my tether, belligerent like a surprised heifer under the axe. I felt the glare of sun, heard the whir of swamp coolers. I dreamed of other worlds as the silent press of summer idled under high-tension wires, those iron ladies in waiting, pointing to escape, a lunatic army bent on freedom. I left, feeling sure then that I could abandon you and our childhood memories, Dead Dog Corner, our father smiling into his last beer, the silence of years between. How do you live now, Alice, with your looking glass of tears and your white rabbits just so? Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to go to the Maine section, and here's another beautiful quilt pattern, and it has a raven in it. Those are, I really remember ravens and crows from Maine, and particularly in the snow. And the first poem I'm going to do here also has a picture of one of my sister's crumb quilts. A crumb quilt is made from scraps of fabric. It also makes an allusion to the Gee's Bend women from Alabama, and that's a small town where famous women have quilted for generations. They're very famous now for their quilts. So this one is called The Quilter, and it's for my sister who quilted the family heirlooms. She began on a Singer treadle machine, cutting simple pieces at first, rocking her foot backward and forward like those Geesbend women from Alabama with their call and response stitches, singing housetop and bricklayer, singing their visual histories into being, hand to hand, laid down from one generation to the next. In her early years, she did not know of her own heritage, the great aunt on her grandmother's farm, an Oklahoma quilter, piecing traditional patterns, hunter stars, kaleidoscope, wedding ring, the pictures becoming more intricate, more intimate as the occasions fit, choosing the essential working colors and textures, coarse or smooth like life, learning the slip knot for anchoring. Later, she learned to paper piece each triangle first, add fans of light, or design the concentric squares which could close in upon a body if she let them. 2 husbands came and went, years passed humming along with her machines. But her knowledge continued as she studied those years, arranged the width of her own borders, wove colorful tales like the women before her, each covering caught up by needle and thread and the rocking feet of all the journeys she envisioned. Okay. And the next one is for my husband, Joe, and we used to hike up the hill from our house to our neighbor's cattle pasture and ice skate up there. So it's called One Winter Night in Maine. We climbed up the hill to Malcolm's field in our mittens, woolen coats, scarves snugged at our throats, the cold abiding 10 degrees. Only the silhouettes of his dairy herd watching, tails slowly swishing as if waiting for revelations. The sky a hammered tin lantern with stars wheeling round and round. The blades of your ice skates, the pond circular too. In the middle of the Jersey herd, their dark liquid eyes reflecting glimmers from above. And from below, your whirling feet carved diamonds in the ice, your smile drawing us in as you swooped and twirled. We were transported by silence and light from a million fingertips, reflecting a horizon like black ocean, the air so brilliantly frozen, it hugged our very core, each minute sound revolving in hushed whispers in anticipation of a sort of holiness, the beauty of quiet, soft breaths, and no one else within our own private galaxy, glistening like ice within the heavens. Okay, and the next poem I'm going to read from the Maine section is in honor of my daughter, who just had our first grandchild 2 weeks ago, and it kind of harkens back to, bedtime stories. So I love this poem. It's called Dear Elizabeth. Today I followed 4 gigantic red strawberries jouncing along the freeway. I had trouble catching up to them in the fast lane. They sped away from me at 70 miles per hour. Just as I pulled even, they hurtled down an exit ramp. Merry-go-round, the circus ride proclaimed, hauling ass on a silver flatbed truck. Giants of sticky possibilities trapped in steel. Then I thought of all the what-ifs in the world. What if there really were gigantic strawberries? Think of all the strawberry shortcake. What about those dolls of the same name? Strawberry ice cream? Think of doodling the reds, pinks, and greens of imagination, all the sweet sap to spread around just when you most needed it. How about all the pithy seeds to floss nightly from bedtime stories, such as the big hungry bear and the red ripe strawberry? You used to love that one. What if we strawberry coated words that escaped too quickly, so all of those stones did not break us, sticks and stones and bones? What if we still had strawberry fields forever, or sent strawberry emissaries to foreign countries instead of bombs? What if I still had you to read to? And so I thought of you and other impossible things. Okay, and the next section is called Finishing Threads, and it's a landscape quilt and set in Oregon. And And the first poem I'm going to read is, I wanted to read this one because it talks about the 2018 Paradise Fires. We just passed the 3rd year anniversary of the terrible fires here in Oregon, and thinking of Maui, the people in Maui. So it's November 2018, freezing fog hangs over the Willamette Valley, while a hot fog of ashes coats the San Joaquin. San Francisco schools closed due to smoke levels from the campfire, inhibiting healthy breathing. Paradise completely destroyed. 63 dead, more than 100 missing, 3 horses racing down the road in terror. But last night, an impossibly pink cloud, all alone in the powder blue sky of the Willamette, just at the coming of sunset. And this morning, 2 golden leaves twirl in midair, caught by an invisible silk web. The cat grabs my cast-off pair of mittens and gleefully slaps them across the floor. Through slats at the bedroom window, I look out on the alley, which is yellow crisp with beech leaves. Joe's attention wrapped in his coffee and dreams, waiting for the rise of a full-throated morning, for a flurry of birds flaming in many colors. Okay. And the next poem I'm going to read is an ekphrastic poem written in response to a wonderful piece of artwork. You probably can't see it that well, but it's by an Oregon artist, Cynthia Heron, and it's called Glowfield with Mended Oak Leaf. And in the middle of it is kind of a little shadow box with a carved oak leaf. And this one is also written for my grandfather. It's called In the Brambles. You don't want to be caught in the rough mold of that square wooden box, dead brown like the leaf inside, with its broken spine, needle sharp. That fallen leaf beautiful, but too fragile, the skeleton ready to crumple under the wrong footfall, or the casually cruel wrong word. My grandfather was such a man who could do this. Tall, brittle, weather-beaten from too much work in the oil fields of the Texas Panhandle, he surrendered to bitterness found in his own shadow. He took his young children to see decaying things, to toughen them up. A cigarette always dangling from his mouth, his loud, rough voice scared them. He was unbending, the kind of man who does not crush easily, but when he did, he scattered into a heap of small fractures. No, you do not want to be trapped in this box. Rather step through into wider boundaries, into a lushness of burnt orange and young green, seemingly delicate tangles that will entwine you in sturdy new growth. Maybe these colors will not be enough to cushion all of your falls, nor erase every feeling of deadness you will encounter, but they will shed a light of fragile healing, knitting together young bones. And Shawn, I think I'm probably about out of time, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to move on to the next poet.
Right. And thank you very much, everybody, for being here and being a listener. And again, to Shawn and Robert, the Poetry Box. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. I have to say, one of the things I really love about the book is just how authentic it feels. You tell the real stories of family and you honor all that generational history and also the tricky family dynamics that we all have, but you show how you can get through those and still have all this love and friendship. So I think it's a really, really beautiful and special book. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. Well, next up, we have Grace Richards reading from her chapbook, Breakup Hair and Other Poems, which explores new beginnings through iconic feminine images drawn from myth, film, and pop culture. Grace Richards has worked as a technical writer in the early computer industry, as an assistant in the TV and film industry in Los Angeles, and later taught ESL at the college level in Southern California and at University of Oregon. Finding her poetic voice over recent dramatic years, her work has been published in Woollawah, Writing in a Woman's Voice, herstory and in the anthologies Poems on Poems and Poets and Conestoga Zen. She enjoys being part of the creative community in Eugene, Oregon, awestruck by the surrounding beauty of the trees, the ever-shifting clouds amid bright blue sky, and gentle April showers that sometimes turn to snowfall. Please welcome Grace Richards.
Thank you, Shawn. Okay, well, my list of poems today, they were all written during the last 3 years, which of course encompass the pandemic. So I'll start with this one. I found myself going a little crazy from the isolation. So this one is called Cracked. An everyday cup from my favorite set of mugs this morning begins ringing and tingling with the heat of my steaming tea. I enjoy the sounds, though I know it's dangerous to let them go on too long. I should empty it quick, but I hear a sort of music, like tiny fairies playing a private prelude before the main event, the cup's complete disintegration. Would it explode into sharp, jagged pieces, irregular in size and shape, or would it suffer a quiet implosion and simply crumple into itself, the hot liquid still steaming, seeking and finding the least resistant path, as liquids do, seeping through the cracks visibly connected in fine, spidery designs? It's a man-made thing, after all. I cannot expect it to split into beautiful, uniform shapes like the kaleidoscopic symmetry of snowflakes, yet its calming colors, aquamarine tinged with faint streaks of gold, remind me of the natural world, of immense ocean depths, of seaweed drifting on the waves like flags from another shore. The rhythm of this tune is like a ticking clock, though not as regular. I'm listening for a pattern. How much longer dare I wait to pick it up, dump the contents, and set it down before it shatters into shards that will cut? I can wait as long as it takes for this fever of boredom to break. And another emotion that came up during this time was grief. So this one is called Adagio in Your Absence. Day after day, the piano sits unplayed, its lustrous black lacquered presence impressive and imposing through the French doors. I'm tempted to enter, to remember the sure touch of my fingers on the keys, the physicality of playing once I learned to put my body into it, the ring of melodious tones, the spiritual lift it would bring, and how time would disappear. I missed the house we shared, the rarefied air we lived in, the expansive space of our lives then. As soon as I'd finished a piece, I wanted to play it again. If I were to lift the top now, it would cast a shadow like the ragged wing of a dark bird portending the end of the world, a shadow the shape of my grief. And during these past 3 years, I've experienced entirely too much screen time. So I've written 3 poems about that. Screen vision number 1. My eyes focus on television images so cold, so flat. They seem to slide across the screen. They blur into each other. I long to connect with people, with the world. I long to see once again in 3D. I've been staring at screens for so many days. They've turned into weeks, and I fear I'm losing my depth perception, my perspective. My mind fills with random memories, obscurities, unresolved resentments, grief, regrets. Much easier to turn back to the screen and forget. Screen vision number 2. A gorgeous image of flowers calls to me from my desktop. Some kind of orchid or lily, petals unfolding in patterned layers of hypnotic pastels, pink but not as cloying, lavender but not as blue, some combination of hues in their palest, most delicate aspect. I want to wrap myself in the designs of soft light and shadow. The pink tones appear sensual and cool. They do not blush. The blues blend with creamy white, fanning into elegant curves. I long to press their silky shapes against the tender skin of my face and neck, to wear them in my hair, gentle scent wafting, exotic and sweet as old roses, even sweeter with no thorns. On the screen, the blossoms are wondrous, like a distant memory of life forms long extinct from our ever-warming world, or existing in a faraway land from which we've been exiled. Desktop flowers with seductive powers, improbable and elusive as the healing balm of Gilead. Screen vision number 3. I want a glam shot like the poetesses in LA. Their photos and bios posted online with always three recently published pieces, a kind of trinity. We worship the words flowing down the screen, holy, pure, pristine, from some deep well of inner radiance and knowing. The pose, the clothes reflect cool sophistication, jacket slung over one shoulder, a wide-brimmed hat tipped over one eye, just so, forearms and hands in lacy fingerless gloves, nails painted purple or blue, a carefree fashionista attitude. These images seem ineffable, yet the poems speak, appearing on the page, hallowed and miraculous as a virgin birth. No awkward coupling, no bloody mess, no pain. Also during this time period, the Black Lives Matter protests occurred in Portland, and a sort of miracle took place on this one night, and this is about that night. Naked Athena appears as if suddenly sprung from the crowd's collective consciousness on the 51st night of Black Lives Matter protests in Portland. O Holy Virgin, warrior maiden for the modern age, helmet replaced by black pandemic mask, she treads lightly but steadily, unfazed by the clamor and confusion, heedless of the sharp, sporadic retorts of gunfire, the acrid clouds of smoke rising from pepper bombs exploded on the ground. Our queen parts the unruly throng like waves upon the Red Sea, her path leading to the line of militiamen with big guns and tear gas, secure in their camouflaged anonymity. At the intersection, she faces them, vulnerable and bare. O Mother of Mercy, our sweetness and our hope. She begins a yoga routine there in the street. Her pose is graceful and precise. Her beauty radiates, captivates protesters, press, and police. Spray painting has ceased. Reporters shoot videos soon to go viral. Guns are lowered. Silence descends. When she sits upon the rough asphalt, knees drawn up, legs splayed wide, the police stand down and retreat, defeated by the loving goddess eternal, divine embodiment of peace. This next one is a reimagining of the Greek myth of Leda and the swan, but this one is from Leda's point of view. Leda, #MeToo. The poets in their propaganda like to dance around the themes of fate and free will. Ovid and Yeats describe me as a beautiful young girl, specially chosen by Zeus, yet unappreciative and probably ignorant of the fact. My fate was to be born a woman. Against God's will, I don't stand a chance. I am staggering and helpless, unable to push away the swift, cocksure fowl with my vague, terrified fingers. I am surprised by the sudden blow, the swan's great wings beating still as it catches my neck in its sharp beak, as it lays me out on the damp, fertile ground, as it presses its bony avian body close against the softness of my throat and breast, that I might feel its strange heart beating where we lie. Its dark webbed feet part my unwilling thighs. With hard insistence, it violates and impregnates me with wild Olympian seed. When it's over, I am bloody and bruised, my dress smeared with green algae drooled from its mouth. I am unimpressed by the feathered glory of this god in disguise, by the deception and artifice he undertakes for the act of rape. The poets say I was mastered by this brute blood of the air, but I was there, and that is only their delusion. And the last one is also the title of my book, Breakup Hair. And it was inspired by a desire to emerge from the pain of a breakup with a whole new attitude. Breakup hair. Like Lilith rising from the Red Sea, having refused to submit to Adam, forever expelled from the Garden of Eden, replaced by Eve, that mouse, I carry on with my fabulous, freshly cut, flame-colored hair. Lovely like Rita Hayworth, not meter maid, as Gilda, coppery curls shimmering, cascading, sultry like Anne Margaret, hips swaying across the dance floor, singing bye-bye, birdie, bye-bye, or Julianne Moore, statuesque, alabaster, classic. Regal like the first Queen Elizabeth, bright, tight waves drawn above her brilliant aristocratic brow, erotic and ethereal like Venus on the half shell, tresses long, luxuriant swirls draping around her hips in lush serpentine curves. Like a femme fatale, I might stalk you, seduce you with my new Betty Page bangs. I'm dangerous, my shining hair stolen from the flames of hell. I'm electric, untamed. I'm a copperhead with a temper. I could take revenge. Out of the ash, I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Grace. I do so love the title poem from the book. That's one of my favorites in the whole book. And I have to say that I really found these poems to be beautifully vulnerable, yet quite empowering. And I also love the fact that we got to hear Lita's side of the story. I think that was long, long overdue. So thank you so much, Grace, for sharing this with us today. What a treat. So our final fabulous poet is Claudia Savage, author of Metal Used for Beauty Alone, a unique experimental collection of spells that embody her plea for music as prayer, music as protest, music as balm, and music for change. Claudia's writing explores diaspora and dichotomy and has been featured in print, on stage, and in galleries throughout the country. She's a poet, essayist, and author of Bruising Continents, The Last One Eaten, and the collaboration The Hour of Angélie. Her work lives on the page, but even more often on the stage, with Thick in the Throat Honey, a performance duo with her husband, John Savage. Claudia's work has been recognized and supported by the Portland Jazz Composers Ensemble, Regional Arts and Culture Council, the Black Earth Institute, the UCross Foundation, the Global Education Center, and the Atlantic Center for the Arts. Her poetics are influenced by rabid reading, dancing, Alice Coltrane, and long walks in drippy forest. Please welcome Claudia Savage.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you so much. Mwah, mwah, mwah. This is like the best. I'm very sorry, everybody. I did forget my headphones, and I am currently, I hope it's all good. I hope you can hear me well. I'm loud, so I figured I'm okay. Shawn and Robert, thank you so much for putting my book together. I actually came to Shawn and I was like, Shawn, I'm doing a performance and I have these weird poems and please help me. So I really appreciate them. They did such a gorgeous job. I have to show it off. because it's super cool. And I hope you guys get it. And I just hope that you support the Poetry Box because they're doing really important work, taking care of artists in the world. And I just feel like in some ways that might be the most important work right now. So yeah, thanks so much, Susan and Grace, for being here and writing such rad poems. I've seen so many people I know and I'm super excited. Thanks, Elmo. So I wanted to, this is sort of funny because after Grace's like super empowering women poems, my book sort of reimagines the witches of Macbeth as a kind of urging jazz musicians on to heal the world. But I actually am thinking a lot about my dad currently. I'm poolside right now because my daughter and my husband, there's a pool party going on. It's her birthday party. She's turning 11. So Sean's putting up with me. But I my dad and he's not doing well. And I've been thinking about sort of how we reimagine men as well in the world, jazz musicians, and also just men that I've known that I've written poems about. So I'm going to start actually with a poem to hopefully make you guys laugh. I once participated in a workshop and there was a young man in the workshop, this was many years ago, who was in seminary, and I will read this poem for him. It's called Praise. I once knew a poet who couldn't stop writing about his penis. Not that unusual, really, a young man obsessed with his most prized part. But his lack of arrogance, his utter gentleness in the poetry circle confused us. He talked about it like it was a ham he had cured or a zucchini he was proud of that he had grown. He was so wonderstruck. He quoted the Bible in reference to its abilities. Different topic. He gave it his full attention on the page, and then pop, there it was again, hitching a ride in Mozambique. We didn't know how to critique it without destroying his spirit. It was a child's first steps, acceptance into medical school. It was his first job, his first apartment, his first kiss. It was Christmas morning, his summer break, beers for everyone, a raise, a new bike, a sunset over Oahu. It was everything rolled into one squishy, then firm, then squishy, then pleasure package. And who would say no? Who would say he shouldn't write it down again this week? Again, sure, why not? Who could say don't be proud when body confidence is hard? Pride can be a gift. Obsession is desired in writing. In life, to care about something, anything, is rare in youth these days, isn't it? So why should we doubt him? Make him ask for more. Okay. That's my first wacky poem. And then to take it, because I just feel a sense of, I was looking through what to do, and there's a lot of poems in my book about the gender dynamics at jazz concerts, lots and lots of young men, hardly any women. So I just wanted to start with that poem that was very amusing. But now I'm going to read one about my dad, because I found this. Shawn, do you remember you published this poem? So Shawn has another, like, if you don't know, she also has a magazine called The Poeming Pigeon. And she published this poem of mine that I wrote about my father. And my father is definitely part of the reason why I got interested in jazz. He used to take me to jazz concerts in Harlem when I was a wee little girl. There was no OLC in Harlem. It was just get the baby up to the bar and order a Shirley Temple. And that was me as a child. So this poem is for him. It's called Bach's Coriolis. And Coriolis, if you don't know, is this sort of it's like the gyroscopic effect of the Earth's spin that sort of creates wind and weather. That's what I remember reading the definition about. So Bach's Coriolis. My father wanted to be music. Tonight, I play the Goldberg variations after dinner. The day's chaos moored into bass and treble, dark and light. I see his clouded face 25 years ago, I play the Goldberg variations after dinner. Fingers desperate to weave what my voice cannot. I see his clouded face 25 years ago. Closed eyes, head swaying with the crescendo's wind. Desperate to weave what my voice cannot, I heave everything toward beauty. Closed eyes, head swaying with the crescendo's wind. My ribs turn canyons. Everything toward beauty. History be damned. I weave peace with my fingers. My ribs turn canyons. My heart pneumatic with arpeggio. It was always after dinner, my fingers desperate to keep up with Glenn Gould, till my veins possessed the hum of fugue, till the record needle stalled, beaten. Keeping up with Glenn Gould 25 years ago, I closed my eyes after dinner at the piano in striped pajamas to make his face still, his hands listening. My ribs turned canyons, the day's chaos moored into bass and treble, dark to light. My heart pneumatic with arpeggio. My father desperate to be music. Yeah, me too, Shawn. I know, it's making me kind of weepy. In terms of my book, I wanted to start with that piece, I think mostly because I can remember years ago, I submitted to some journal and I'd written an essay about how I remember New York as like, I'd go outside and there'd be hip hop and there'd be kids like doing their thing in Queens on the street. And then I'd come inside and my dad would be playing like John Coltrane or Bach. And the dichotomy of that, I think, has allowed me to just kind of like flow in those spaces. Like, I'm good. I want to listen to classical music, but I also just want to like, you know, boogie and dance to hip hop, like to Black Sheep and stuff. Okay. So this piece in my book is called The Witches Replaced Guns with Saxophones. And I saw that one of the people who's listening is Daniel Flessis, who is one of my favorite jazz lovers in the world. So Daniel, I'm dedicating this poem to you because it's about Pharaoh Sanders, who died recently. So this one's for you, Daniel. The witches replaced guns with saxophones. Who is left to praise the world? I never said my mouth was open for you to pour your sorrow, but you see woman and think vessel. I said, rearrange a horn to heaven. I said, let gospel train your ears. Train your ears for this train. You said, it's so hard to eat from the sound. I said, stop being real and sit your ass down. I meant, listen, love. Let the breath be round. Sit before Pharaoh's beard of clouds, mountain the planets, back round the sun. So beautiful the man who isn't just flesh, but stars spun. Where you been, my brilliant one? So many ruined run. Look, as love blows a horn to heaven. He always nods to heaven, since my brother, my mother, too many live up there. Sound too waves down. My king, yes, a shiny bell does resound. So let us bow before you, your hallowed ground. It's not over, she said. It's just spiritual flow. Watch her finger fire spark, a tumbling force the night cannot halt with its dark. She is all goddess bright. I said, I'll build you a shrine of shimmer. I said, I will invent a prayer. Under the hold, back beat, under the push, bones cross the bone, breath out the room, sound, spit, suck the bones, cross the wall, the suns itself, a space amid the shadows, plead, light, fall, eyes stand, mouth up and up for what you don't help once more, your eyes brave, death charge, fathom, sonic, well, sleep, don't come, soft, deep, sleep, leap, see, leap and leap, dive, dive, no thought, no thought. I will be still. Yeah, thank you. I'm wondering, can I do one more, Shawn? Do I have time to do one more? Okay. I'm gonna do yeah, because I'm looking at the time. I think this one we'll still have a little bit. I want to do the one that Shawn likes the best. So that's the very last poem in my book. And there's a yellow jacket. So let's hope I don't get stung. This one is called I know, I'm like, the witches stir sonic stew and find that breath orbits the earth. And I may, because it is jazz, I may abbreviate this so it's a little shorter as I blow a yellow jacket. I didn't expect it to be beautiful. My love plays free jazz in the morning before breakfast. It relaxes me, he shrugs as the stereo screams at the oatmeal. Space stalks, notes heave sunlight into pockets. Crack limbs loose, fold, pleat, pucker, sweat the mouth of water, sing sounds to plump the slender air. He is the age of my father, a tempted conqueror and righteous defender. That's why you play free jazz, you dissonant bastard. What could you answer to ruin, ruin, ruin? Shame makes a certain kind of scream, and history almost drowned you. My father holds his fluid, unable to walk to the toilet, tubes in each nostril, steady hum of oxygen, his anthem. And you? You and your massive crown of white, you and your thick beard smother the mouthpiece. You and your square legs tremble the ceiling. You and your unstoppable desire, you hurricane the room so we can be the eye. The horn has secrets. Younger players pray sway. Hips stir the crowd. You marry your feet to floor. Eyes closed. Sopranita spoon our air. I can hardly eye another pale thigh, eye another closed eye. I try to eye you again before my ears succumb. Still, age should demand some sacrifice. But you control the sea. Beard around your enormous skull, hunger howl, I think of your mother. That head, resident cavity cave of air. Shh. That head tore and tore as my daughter did me. She bore her son into a world of flame. Hitler's drum so loud, burning thought, air, ash to ash. You clamped a mouthpiece between your giant maw to deaden the larger roar. Anyone who says free jazz is noise, unlistenable dissonance, has never had her heart savaged by grief. Free jazz is the whale, sea whale, sea whale, sea whale, before the harpoon. Free jazz is the ocean, empty ocean. After the rapid pulse that leaves anxiety breathless. Free jazz won't save you from a burning building or shockwave or swarm of bees. My dreams of refugees still on their knees. But it will worry your heart for you. It knows chaos can be sorted, corded through a horn blown for 50 years while mushroom clouds leapt to the sun, mountains quivered to ash, so men could march and conquer nothing. It countered. It rearranged the air for our ears, shuddered the air, shook the air, shook the air, shook the air shook, the air roared, the air roared, the air shook, shook the air, roared, roared the air, roared the air, toot, toot the air, toot, toot the air, toot, toot. We need this horn. This musician with the lion head, hurling the question. Metal used for beauty alone. Thank you.
Wow. Absolute wow. Hearing you read, Claudia, is a full body experience. I think we've all fallen under your magical spell listening to you chant these poems. I mean, the rhythms you create with words, just they take me to another world, and it's like my own heartbeat starts to morph into jazz. I just love it. So, and then we had the bonus humor poem to start off with, which I wasn't ready for that. So that was fun. You guys, this book is just so unique. And because Claudia's work is a full experience, audio, visual, reading, everything. If you buy her book, there's a secret little QR code in the beginning of the book that takes you to a web page that she has recorded all of the poems in the book, so you can sit there and read and then listen to her powerful delivery of these poems right there in the privacy of your own home over and over again. So I highly encourage everybody to check that out. So thank you. Let's have another giant round of applause for our readers today. You guys were all fabulous. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Claudia. And thank you, our audience, for supporting our authors and joining us for another edition of the Poetry Box Live. Our next show will be Saturday, October 14th, and we will be celebrating the launch of our 13th Superstition edition of the Poeming Pigeon, with about 20 different poets reading their work from the new journal. Plus, we will be sharing a lot of the artwork from the book, so you don't want to miss that one. To keep up to date on shows, new releases, submission opportunities, please subscribe to our newsletter by going to thepoetrybox.com, where you'll find a sign-up form at the bottom of each webpage. Thanks again for joining us. Feel free to unmute yourself, shower your love on these poets. Thank you so much, everybody.
I see friends popping up. I'm so excited. Alexis,
Hello.
thank you for being here. Daniel, Elmo.
Yay. You were all wonderful. It was even worth pulling off in Riverside, California.
Wow. A little hot there, I bet. Yeah.
Wow.
Not as hot as where I came from, where it's 112, but it just, all three of you were just stunning. Amazing poetry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. What a gift. Thank you. And thank you. And thank you to Shawn and Robert, the Poetry Box. Amazing publication and support for, the vitality that is creativity and represented by these amazing poets. Thank you so much.
You look so beautiful.
Oh, Allegra,
Yeah.
it's so good to see you. It's been so long. I know Allegra from back in Sacramento. We used to read
I
together.
love it. I love it.
So wonderful to see you.